sports fans already know it was a busy week in the NFL with Thanksgiving games and some backups stepping up in a major way.
Yeah, Week 12 will wrap up tonight with the Steelers taking on the Colts. Yesterday, the Dolphins improved to 8-3 with a win over the Texans, and the Bengals beat the Titans in an important AFC matchup. So for more on all this, let's bring in Scott Pioli. He's an analyst for CBS Sports HQ and the NFL Network. He is also a former NFL general manager. Scott, happy Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving. Good to see you, my friend.
Yes.
So let's talk Browns. Quarterback Deshaun Watson is expected to be reinstated later today. He was suspended for 11 games for violating the league's personal conduct policy after numerous sexual misconduct allegations. So what are your expectations for him in Week 13? Almost 2 years. He's been almost 2 years since he's been on the field, essentially.
Yeah. My expectations are limited because there's definitely going to be a transition period for the Browns' new quarterback. Again, it's going to be a physical transition and there's going to be a mental transition. You mentioned the fact that he hasn't played in almost 2 years. So a lot of the game is about timing, particularly for quarterbacks, being on the same page with the people that you're throwing the ball to, the people that you're making play action fakes with. So a lot has been done in practice the last couple of weeks, but game speed is completely different than practice speed and training speed. So that's going to be the physical part. And when we get to the mental part, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he's treated during road games, how he's treated by his own home fans. The other thing is this, Vlad, the quarterback position is so important in terms of relationships and how he's accepted by his teammates. Because of these past circumstances, I'm guessing that there are some people in that locker room that aren't necessarily on board with him. They'll do what they have to do maybe to be a good teammate. But then the other side of that is going to be the mental part of his opponents and the defensive players and how they are going to handle and treat him. You know, I'll say this real quick is Jacoby Brissett, who took over for him in the last 11 games. Kudos to Jacoby Brissett, who is a class player. He's everything that you want in a quarterback in terms of intelligence, in terms of dedication, dependability, reliability, just a great teammate. And the job that he did under the circumstances these last 11 games, again, kudos to Jacoby Brissett.
And on your point of, the game itself being intense and can these players really step up when the time comes, the Jets decided to bench quarterback Zach Wilson this week and start with their backup Mike White. He exploded for over, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. What are your thoughts on his performance? Folks on social media eating it up, but what does that mean for the Jets moving forward?
Yes, Errol, it was a really interesting situation because their starting quarterback, Zach Wilson, last week was benched, and he was the number 2 overall pick in 2021. They inserted Mike White yesterday, who goes 22 of 28, only 6 incompletions, as you mentioned, over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and most importantly, no interceptions. He did not do anything to lose the game. And people may want to say, oh, that was the Chicago Bears. But going into yesterday, the Chicago Bears had the 9th best pass defense in the National Football League. Mike White came in and did a tremendous job for the Jets yesterday. And what's interesting, though, when you look back at Zach Wilson, part of what Robert Saleh, the head coach, said was, we are benching him because he needs a reset. That reset had everything to do with his teammates being upset with him and disappointed with him because he didn't take any public accountability for his failings and the poor play that he had. So a number of his teammates spoke out. And again, at that position, you need people to gather around you. The fact that Mike White came in and led the way that he did and his teammates really enjoyed him may create a problem for the decision making when the Jets have to decide who the quarterback is going to be.
So you may have seen this, Scott. Odell Beckham Jr. was removed from a Miami flight after reportedly appearing to go in and out of consciousness. He refused to put his seatbelt on, according to the reports out there. And this comes, of course, ahead of free agency meetings that he's to have with the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Bills. We don't really know all the details of what happened on that flight, but
it is strange.
It's strange. But is there any cause for concern for the teams aside what transpired this weekend? And what are your thoughts on where he might actually land?
Yeah, Vlad, this is interesting because, again, a lot of what we're hearing right now is one side and the other side. But as we know in today's world, there's going to be some video, I'm sure, and there'll be more information coming from people that were passengers on that flight. So we'll find out more. You know, Vlad, you mentioned this incident, but if you look back over Odell Beckham's career, There haven't been necessarily singular incidents, but there has been a pattern of him not getting along. He had issues when he was with the Giants in terms of getting along with people and being accepted. Same thing happened when he went to Cleveland. Last year, he wins a Super Bowl, and that's what everyone's talking about. But what people forget is he was only there for 8 regular season games and the playoff run. There wasn't a great deal of time for things to go wrong, and there was a lot of winning. Winning takes care of a lot of ills. So to me, I don't know Odell personally, but there's always been a little bit of noise. And if you're going to bring a player into your locker room, especially if you're a team that is a winning team, and that's what he's looking for right now, how is that going to impact the chemistry in your locker room? Because this game is a great deal about chemistry. So how is he going to help the team? Is he going to be a good teammate? Is it going to be short enough time where those warts won't be shown or there won't be any difficulties? It's going to be really interesting because right now what we're hearing is it's all of the NFC East chasing after Odell Beckham with the exception of Washington. And it's really a brilliant strategy by Odell and his agent who's pitting rivals against one another and a group of people who are competing for the same division championship, and all those teams are in the thick of the hunt.
It's a key point you make, though, for all these aspiring NFL players out there. From a former GM right here, Scott, no one wants to deal with the noise and the inconsistencies, even if you're a solid player. I just want to ask you about the Rams before we wrap up. The Chiefs beat the defending Super Bowl champs yesterday as LA falls to 3-8 on the season. This is their worst record through 11 games since 2011. What happened to this team? How do they look forward to next season?
Yeah, Errol, in addition to that, the point that you're making is this is historically bad for a team that won a Super Bowl the year before. This 3-8 record is the worst or tied for the worst in the history of the NFL in the Super Bowl era, which is the last 57 years. The only other team that was 3-8 were the New York Giants in 1987 after their Super Bowl. But if you remember, in that season, it was a shortened season. They played one less game. They only played 15 games, and 3 of those games were played with replacement players. So that wasn't really the New York Giants. So this step backwards and this fall from grace is historic. And to me, there's been some things that are talked about in terms of players being hurt and injuries. That's the game. That happens. All the other teams that are close to them in terms of being this historically bad after a Super Bowl championship had bigger problems than what the Rams are facing right now.
All right. Very interesting. Great to chat with you, Scott Pioli. Enjoy the rest of your week.